Welcome back everybody, back to my channel. This is Kathy. I'm going to be doing today a Halloween card. I'm going to be using this Picket Fence Studios stamps, or stamp I should say, called People Are My Favorite Mummy. I'm going to be using this cute little mummy there, this mummy stamp. Oh hey there, you can see my reflection. So I'm putting in about 100 A2 size panel, A2 size card into my Misty white cardstock. It's about 110 pounds. It's pretty thick because I'm going to be doing some Copic coloring. So I'm going to be putting that into my Misty, and I am going to be stamping it with some fade out no line coloring ink from Ink on 3. I'm going to try my hand out at some no line coloring. This is my first time using the stamp, so I'm trying to prime it a little bit, just get some of the residue from the factory out. And there you can see the ink that I'll be using. So I'm going to stamp that a little bit. I love my Misty because you can don't have to worry about whether or not you need to stamp something twice or you misstamped. You can just go ahead and restamp it. And if you don't have one, it's a good little starter investment. If you're interested in getting into cards or stamping, that's a good place to start. So I'm stamping that on there. See how you can kind of hardly see the background. So I'm going to do some coloring. I'm speeding this up a bit. I'm not a pro at Copic coloring. I get by. But right there I am using W1 some warm gray colors just to get the image of the mummy and the clothing, and some old strips of clothing is what I was thinking of, just to give that some idea. And then I went into W2 just to give it a little more depth. It's upside down W2. And then I went back to W1 again. And I just kind of flickered in very gently in the colors. Now I added some W0 just to blend that in together, and just trying to get the strips of fabric and his or her fingers, just to add a little bit more detail. And I'm back with my W1. You can see a portion of my hair. Sorry about that. And as I'm going along this, I'm trying to just get the dimensions of the lines of this fabric for the mummy. And I'm adding a little bit darker on the edges. I added a little bit of color to the inside to represent the eyes, I guess to give it some sort of glowing is what I was thinking of. And I went back again with my darker, warmer W colors of W0 just to go back and add a little bit more dimension onto the colors. I went in with my little black gel pen just to define the eyes, and some of the white pen just to give it a little bit of highlights and differentiate the eye from the fabric as well. And then I went in with my Copic blender just to blend in a little bit of the mummy outfit, or whatever you call the fabric. When I was done, I went in and used the coordinating die to cut that out. I went in to use my Empress. And I'm using my large Empress. I didn't use the mini on this one, so I do have a mini, which I love both of them. They cut really great. So I cut that out, and then I'm going back in there. I'm going to emboss it because I thought I would add a little bit of texture to the lines. And I'm going to emboss it with some pearl embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. So right there I'm adding my Versamark. And of course I remembered I didn't add my little powder, my static powder. But it was okay since I had already die cut that out. I wasn't too concerned about it. And so I used the embossing powder, and I'm going to spread it all along. I kept the die cut right in the space that I had dyed. And now I'm going to heat set that and melt the embossing powder. And sorry, I'm a little bit off screen, but it created this nice little texture, which I didn't mind. It was an unexpected surprise. I'm not sure if you could see that, but hopefully you can see it in the pictures. And then just to add a little more dimension, I took some black soot Distress ink, and just to get the edges, because I know the die cut left a little bit of the white on the edges, so I figured I'd go in there with the my little sponge dauber and just gave it a little bit more dimension. And then using a smaller one just to go in and get the crevices up and just make it look gold. Okay, so after that I put that aside, and then I went and just sprayed some, I used some of the mica stains from Tim Holtz that just came out for Halloween, and I'm going to tell you which ones they are, sorry. Because I used a little bit of each. This is the first time that I'm trying it out. So I used Ominous, Twilight, Unraveled, Mulled Cider, Fallen Acorn, and Specimen. I love the Distress Micas. As you can see there, I'm trying to dry it because I'd keep it wet and I wanted to move on with the card, but some of that, I think I used a little too much and it seeped underneath. But I kind of like the effect. This is my first time, like I said, it was my first time using the Distress Micas. I probably could have used a little bit less, but it ended up looking a little spooky night type of feel, so I didn't mind it. I went in there and I went in with some Distress Oxide just to give it some dimension as well, and just make the moon look a little bit more. Now that stencil is from Picket Fence Studios as well. It's the small moon. And then I went in there with some waffle flower deckled frame die just to cut that out, because I didn't want to just keep it with a straight back, so I wanted to give it a little bit of a spooky type of Halloween vibe. And I believe I used the second size there. It took me a while to shake those Distress Mica Stains, so you really have to shake them up just to make sure that you're getting a good spray on it. So I did a little bit with the moon cut off, kind of keeping it at the edge, and then I added a little bit of background, black background, just to give it more of a spooky effect, and I cut that out with my A2 waffle flower A2 layers, and I cut 2 of them just to see which one would be the best one, which one I'd like the most, as far as it'll look on the card base. And I'm cutting that out just to save it, because you never know when you're going to need it, maybe for a sentiment, so I keep the pieces, the little black pieces. So now I'm just going to fit and see which one it is that I like the best on there. And I think I'm going to go for that one. I think the other one is a little bit too small, so I kept the larger one because I just wanted a little border again. I like to use a little border on the outside. So I am picking now my sentiment from that same stamp set. Excuse me, I'm fighting a little bit of allergies, so sorry if I keep sniffling. I apologize. So I'm trying to see which one would fit into that little space. I was thinking of putting it right on the moon. I'm going to put that little How About a Hug onto my Misty. And now I'm using my powder tool, my Tailored Expressions powder tool, so it avoids any static embossing powder sticking to anything else but the stamp. I'm using my Versamark ink on there, getting a good stamp there. And I'm thinking with this one I should have pressed a little bit lighter just so it wouldn't look like it's too mushy. You'll see now, I think it just takes up a little bit of the... Well, let's see how it comes out. So now I'm going to get my embossing powder. This is a Hero Arts white embossing powder. Now I did do the first one, it came out a little bit too mushy and I think I had to redo it. Initially I was going to do it with the pearl embossing powder so it matched the mummy, but it was too light. And then I chose the Hero Arts white embossing powder, which I liked better. So now I'm pulling out my honeybee stamps little die cut machine. Just as I just have to cut that little thing's a little portable die cut machine is awesome, and I just run that through my little die cut machine because I just want to cut that one little sentiment. And it does its job. It does a great little, just need 2 little plates and you're done. So now I have a top folding card and I'm holding that down with one of my magnets. And it was bothering me a little bit because I had some a little mark on one of my backgrounds. So I'm not sure if you see it here, but I ended up pulling out this I think I had replaced it, this top opening card base for another one because there was a little mark on it that was bothering me. So I put in my background, my black background with some cardstock. It's a little bit like I think it's 100-pound black cardstock, and then I'm using some foam tape to pop up my speckled frame die with the background that I did with a mica stain. That is because I wanted that popped up. The foam tape, I just got it off of Amazon, and it's not very high. It's just it's a nice size to make it look like it's popped up. And then I got out my little mummy and the die cut sentiment, and it looks like that's where I'm going to be placing it. The die cut sentiment, I mean the mummy, I wanted to give it a little bit more support, so I wanted to cut out a few more of those mummies for background. Just instead of popping it up, I just put additional I just cut like 2 more of the mummies, 2 or 3 more of those mummies just to give it support, and I stick it with some glue on the back. And that's where I didn't show much of the process there, but that's pretty much what I did for that, just to give it some support, and it looks like it's popping up a little bit. And for my sentiment, I put in I also wanted to pop up, but this one I had initially used these foam squares, but it was way too high, so I ended up changing my mind and putting the other foam tape that I used for the background. See, and right there I think I'm noticing that it's the sentiment's a little too high. When I'm sticking down my mummy, with my art glitter glue, and that's where I realized that my sentiment was a little too high, so I'm taking it out and using a little bit smaller ones. I'm using my foam tape there for a little bit smaller ones. And the mica stains, I'm sorry if I didn't mention them, they're Distress Mica Stains. I think I was saying Tim Holtz Mica Stains, but there's Distress Mica Stains. So the card's just about done. I knew I was missing some little bling, and I was popping out some bling to see which ones would go. I have my little stash, and I like those ones that they look like little moon rocks, so to speak. So I go with those. And they pretty much self-stick, so it didn't be, I didn't add any glue to it, but I'm using about 5 of them just to give them a little bit of bling on there. So I hope you guys enjoyed the card. It'll be a little bit closer pictures on my blog, and if you like it, you can go visit. I'll leave everything down below. I hope you enjoyed the card. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, everyone.